Hello, everybody, and I welcome Curtis back to my channel on the presentation. Hello, Curtis.
Hi, Dave.
The title of the current presentation is very simple. It's bull run or bull trap. And many people are asking this question, whether this May is going to be like many Mays in the past, whether it's going to be sell in May and go away or not. Let's explore that. The title is self-explanatory. I still further evaluated it here with these lines. So if this is a bull run, then it's this green line most likely. So then I would believe that maybe we go back to like 88K or so, and then we actually start breaking into the new all-time highs.
We're talking about Bitcoin.
For Bitcoin, this is a Bitcoin chart here. Yes, Curtis. Even still in the Q2, so that would be my projection of bull run. Bull trap, however, has where we still go a bit around these levels, so 88 to maybe 100K, over 100K could be easily still. There are some bears, but as a bull trap basically means that we don't really make new all-time highs, but we instead reject. And I also explained it here, my projection in this text, basically at the end of Q2 already, and we start actually rejecting into the very early start of Q3, and then we sweep the lows we've recently made around 75K-ish. We sweep them and continue basically kind of collapsing. So that would be if the bull trap or my projection. And also last but not least, I also make a very simple comparison to further explain, evaluate what I'm basically presenting, that if bull run scenario, then basically this year 2025 should equal 2021. And if bull trap scenario, then basically in a rough way, it can't be a cookie cutter, of course, but then there will be many more similarities between 2022 and this year. Okay, is this clear, Curtis?
So you're saying if it breaks you mentioned 88K, is that a critical number? You had mentioned that.
88K, there is at the moment like the bottom part of the bull market support band. I have been watching this band forever, for years and years. It was less than it used to in the past. Bitcoin ignores this more than it fully respected it in the previous cycle, this cycle, but sometimes still critically respects it, still believe it's worth. So 88K is important in this regard.
Okay.
As of yet.
Great. Okay.
Okay, let me progress to another chart. So now, welcome to the part of the presentation about bull run, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy that, Curtis. First, yes, this is really interesting. So this red line here, this is the 50-week moving average, okay? And we've recently held that. And the holding of the 50-week moving average was, in my opinion, one of the key indicators of the late bull market corrections. What do I mean by the late bull market correction? Well, I mean what happened in the summer 2021. We dipped a lot down, but we still came back up. Even it was kind of marginal all-time highs in November 2021, but still was new all-time highs. And we bounced from on weekly on the 50-week moving average. The same happened last year. The same happened in the summer, August, September 2024. Not the cookie cutter copy paste, but the 50-week moving average played a key role. We held it recently too. So this is a bullish argument. Basically, holding it equals bullish technically. Nothing else to add. One slightly remark to undermine maybe our confidence in this a little bit. I love doing this. People hate that, but anyway, in this red circle, this is a 2018 bear year, okay? I know it was 7 years ago, I know. It's 2 bear markets ago, but there we also held a 50-week moving average, but it ended up only to be a bear market rally there. Just a little bit undermined, but this is still bullish. The recent haul is very bullish.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm going to follow up to what you said. I'm amazed. This surprised me too, how Bitcoin held up versus US equities. It drops triple the amount of US equities. of S&P 500. And it wasn't the case at all this time. And it shows the most on this chart, which is the price of the Bitcoin basically divided by the price of the S&P 500. The ratio is at the all-time highs still.
Yeah.
This is how 2022 looked like in this red circle. Now I have a question marks in right now because there visually you can see a huge difference. In 2018, it also looked like similarly like in 2022. So this is a difference to both of these years. However, I also offer a possible explanation and counter argument why it could be this way. Bullish news around Bitcoin connected to the US states approving it as the state reserves.
Yeah.
I have a full table, not full table, I have a list of quite few of these US states. And this is from the very popular website Bitcoin Laws. I have been mapping this very to an extraordinary depth. They've been mapping this. And there you can also see what is the advance in the approval process. And I'm going to talk about it in the next slide, I believe. But I believe that this is the likely cause of the current Bitcoin strong hold up in the times of the US equities decline. Anything unclear?
Yeah, no, just that graph. Maybe you need to explain that the graph there. It's got how many states on there? Like 30, 20?
This is like
Yeah.
15, and this is
Yeah.
these were the states that are the closest to enacting.
And likely at least a few will approve. That's one thing. The other thing is we have to remember that Bitcoin doesn't have earnings, right? So a recession theoretically should not hurt crypto. It is more like gold, right? It's more like a currency. And a downturn, so the US stocks sold off because their PE prices were very high in part, also other reasons, but big tech sold off. But Bitcoin doesn't have to prove earnings. There is no earnings. And so it should behave differently. It hasn't, but it should theoretically. And so maybe we're seeing a beginning of that.
Okay, I think on the next slide, I will keep talking about the US states approving the
Great.
Bitcoin state reserves because the obvious question on our mind is, can they move the price? And I have tried to explore what would the likely purchases be. There is one very bullish estimate from someone circulating on the internet of like 250, something very high number. I think it's excessive number. My research, I basically used AIs for this research, and what I came up with that sometimes these purchases might be around 1 billion, 500 millions, and MicroStrategy have been doing regularly billions worth of purchases, and the likely, in my opinion, based on my research, I also have it here in this bullet points. I see this more like it reduces volatility rather than that it would pump the price. In my opinion,
Okay.
yeah, I also have here like risk is the volatility spikes again post adoption, but
Yeah.
I don't know how long this enacting process will go on. It might be dragging whole year, Curtis, right? It has to
It
go
could, yeah.
to certain
But the
committee.
other thing is the impact of that on sentiment, though, because if let's say Texas approves a strategic Bitcoin reserve, okay,
Mhm.
and they buy 500 million, they don't buy a lot, they just buy 500 million.
Okay,
Okay,
yes.
so this won't affect the bidding and drive prices up like you're
Okay.
saying. However, that law will be in place theoretically forever or the next 20 or 30 years, right?
Mhm.
At least, let's say 10 years, at least 10 years. Even if you're a bear, you say, oh, Bitcoin's going to crash or be hacked or whatever. It's still at least 10 years. And it's a very strong sentiment signal
Mhm.
for retail, right? And I think we're getting to the point where people can no longer say that it's crazy people, a Ponzi scheme, and it's going to zero and all that. I think those days are gone, right? And I think a strategic reserve really puts that underscore on that, right? Not to mention if the federal government did that, but let's just say Texas or Florida did it. It's a permanent green light for Bitcoin.
I will follow up
Yep.
on this. We no longer have the titles, Ponzi scheme is going to zero. We no longer have that. And as a bearish, that's where everybody kind of starts thinking it's a done deal. It's a cookie cutter. It's a
Too
no-brainer.
easy. Yes.
Also,
Yes.
if you came back all the way, because I browsed the Bitcoin forums, it's a great fun to browse the posts from 2009, 2010. If you have some spare time, I recommend it. And if you came back and saw the people's discussion, if someone would brought up that in 15 years' time, federal government will own Bitcoin and the US states will be proving, then everybody would say, well, that's the end game. Like there is nothing after that. Like that is nothing bigger. So maybe I will be
Yeah.
holding until then.
Yeah. It could be. Yeah. But we also know that anecdotally, I don't know if you could think of your friends and family extended, how many of them own it? No one in my family owns any.
No, no man of mine.
I, 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 I can think of 400 people now and think that maybe 5 or 10 of them own it. So the adoption isn't there, but I agree with you on a sentiment level. It seems like we're getting to the end game of like a Bitcoiner's fantasy, and yet it's still
Yes.
underowned. Yeah. So they're both are very interesting discussion points. Yeah.
Yes, yes. It was kind of like every time when we got the headlines during the bear markets, like this is a Ponzi scheme going to zero, like only once this sentiment was real and people really thought that this could go to zero, like only then the market like proved everybody wrong again and pumped it higher. And to me, it is a red flag when we no longer have that.
Yeah. Could be. Could be.
Anyway, I would like to progress to another slide. This is, but still, well, bullish, like basically US state approving, just like Curtis followed up. Well, this is bullish and bullish news. And this green light that he mentioned, that's why I have it in this part of the presentation. Bitcoin versus gold, Curtis touched that as well. It's holding very strong. I have 3 trend lines on this is a Bitcoin divided by the price of gold. This is the ratio. It's around 29.60, 29.6 at the time of doing this chart sample, okay? It's very clearly that during the risk on periods, when also the equities do well, so 2023, 2024, Bitcoin outperforms gold. And then during the bear year, like 2022 was, and also 2018, don't have the chart here, but that happened the same. Bitcoin down performs gold. Okay, it's very simple. So this trend line here, our supporting trend line, the green one is the most bullish one, connecting the 2023 autumn 2023 with the summer of last year. The yellow one is connecting the very bottom of this cycle, 2022, with the 2023 bottom. And the orange one, that's the absolutely key trend line connecting multiple cycles bottom. And we are still holding all 3. We've recently lost this green, but we've regained it. And I also have it bullet points that as long as we're holding these trend lines, well, perhaps Bitcoin bull market is still on, or crypto bull market is still on. And the bearish risk is when we start losing the first one already, it would be kind of quite an indication of the bear market. And just 2 weeks ago, we lost it. So I was really thinking from this regard as well. But okay, we will regain it. Any questions, Curtis?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Let me
The question. So gold is at 20 trillion now. Suddenly, much higher. I think it was 12 trillion last year, or 13 trillion. It's at 21, and Bitcoin's under 2. So suddenly gold is 10x Bitcoin.
Another argument supporting why bull run. Basically, Trump's budget neutral BTC buy. This is I have a tweet from 7th of March where we first learned the information that the US Secretaries of Treasury are authorized to develop budget neutral strategies to buy additional Bitcoin. We have talked about it in the previous presentation. I'm saving the time. There is no reason why I should be repeating the same arguments as in the previous presentation. Anyone can go and rewatch these parts because lots of the arguments we said in March are still valid today. So, but now from a little bit different perspective, there is some suggestions. People are speculating so far what these strategies could be. Nobody knows for sure at the moment. In the green windows, I have put the two that I feel, I believe, could be the most likely ones, how the US could acquire more Bitcoin. And one would be the re-evaluation of gold reserves. Another was they might buy Bitcoin using tariff revenue. That makes sense to me because they want to do with the tariff revenue, the tax cuts. That's what I've learned. And to say that some portion of it is gonna go to acquire more Bitcoin, can vividly imagine that happening. I have also a red box on this slide as well with Tom Lee from basically his videos, from his work, where he sometimes actually shares a little bit of the frustration that a single person decides too much of the markets, which is Trump. And it's frustrating for market predictions. It's too unpredictable. And Tom Lee has an expensive team they are all frustrated by. They can't get it right. I have a bullet points here. However, I believe that the tariff revenues and the tax cuts as well are much more likely to come in the second half of the year. It's not in the imminent future, in my opinion. Don't have that supporting argument on this slide. But so also these budget neutral strategies could be decided about still 6 months away. Any questions? Anything unclear?
No, I would agree. I disagree that it's bullish. Remember, you were saying where they could sell gold to buy Bitcoin, or they could use tariff revenue to buy Bitcoin, but they could also just issue debt. They could issue bonds. I mean, the whole market cap is only 2 trillion of Bitcoin. So if they bought too much of it, they would skyrocket the price, right? But for the US government, remember, they spend around 6 or 7 trillion a year. So you're talking about a couple months of cash flow for them is $1 trillion.
It's very hard for me to judge what is a percentage chance that such a monstrous buy would actually be approved and would be done on the open market. Even if it is, it would probably be done over a span of a time frame of years, and would be done certainly in confidence to avoid just market front running it. They would do to avoid that market would pre-pump the price like we know Trump is gonna buy 1 million Bitcoins next month. Holy, we are double the price now and then
but price. Also what I'm saying is it's a very, no matter what the price, it's a very small amount of US wealth on a, like if they're spending 6 trillion a year just on whatever, to add another half a trillion or is pocket money for them. So they could do whatever they could do, just issue bonds.
Budget neutral strategies, bullish argument. Another bullish argument why this could be bull run we are in, and why you could call it extended cycle, because we kind of had already 2 cycle tops, because we had new all-time highs in the March 2024. Then we had new all-time highs basically at the elections. So that was second cycle top. So maybe if we continue the bull run, we will have a third cycle top basically. And argument supporting this scenario is the barometer. I borrowed this from Sonny, but with his knowledge as well, I have to say. I even asked him. This is his chart here, Sonny Mulder on Twitter. Definitely check him out. There is also one barometer for the equities for S&P 500. Tom Lee is a big fan of that, uses it a lot, and mostly it really works out. is a high win rate, that barometer. What the barometers generally are about, they say, they claim that as the January goes, and especially the first days of January, so the whole year fares. Okay, somewhere in that regard. And this January was good. So this barometer is showing that the cycle will continue. And we are gonna see a new all-time high. Sony is projecting. Also, I'm not sure if this time should be taken into much of a consideration, but it's around July, August top. My possible counter-argument of these barometers, possible debunk, even though this is a bullish part of the presentation, but I do have a possible argument, is that the barometers will fail this year because there was an occasion that spoiled them. There was a hype event near the end of the January. That was the Trump inauguration. And this is the likely reason why barometers are so optimistic. If we wouldn't have the inauguration there, that we may not have such optimistic barometers at all for both. This is just my take, my 5 cents. But still, the barometers themselves are bullish, and it's a bullish argument. I need to speed up a little bit. Do you want to add something, Curtis, or ask?
Not on this chart. No, it's fine.
Okay, let me continue. I have only a few slides left. This is very quickly from the CryptoCon and his magic bands. I've already covered them in the past, but not necessarily in the last presentation. So he has some secret. He keeps this secret behind the paywall, I think. These magic bands. There are some kind of log bands adjusted with volume. They work somewhere based on volume, something like this. And I think he made them during the cycle to fit all the tops, basically, to estimate where this top will be. And I have to say, they had some very convincing results, meaning that even these bands, these color bands, they were often touches and rejections. Like you could really see that the price reacted from, like this yellow was a resistance, this blue was a resistance, and it was a support. And most recently, this purple, the second level, was hit exactly pinpointly in December and January 2025, December 2024, and it was a rejection from there. But his toppest level was not yet hit. So I just wanted to share that this worked to some degree, and the top level, which is at 152k today, was not yet hit. Okay, I will just progress quickly, and I want to feather up a bit because I was showing this slide in December 2024. I was showing you in my presentation like this one. I was showing you this slide. This was again borrowed from Bitcoin Data 2021. But what I basically was showing you and how I was interpreting this was that this is a screenshot. This is not written right now. This is a screenshot. Likely January top for S&P 500, red spring. Okay, red spring, and rebounds in the summer. And so back in December, I was saying that a likely March decline, corrective spring, but there could be a summer rebound and even a top in the summer, and even a higher top in the summer actually. So this red line here shows you in the middle of the year actually there was a top on average. So I just thought to bring this up as a bullish argument. I call it gems from my December 2024. And that was all for the bullish part, why we are in a bull run. Hope you enjoyed it. Most of you will probably not enjoy as much the bull trap part, but that's why it's super important that you will see it. So I will see you in the next part.